An SUV that's as fun as your sports car. A bold claim. All right, Mr. X3M competition, let's see what you've got. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. As you saw from my reaction, fast SUVs, as sacrilege as some of you may think they are here to stay. And today BMW has dropped off probably the coolest car they may have in their lineup, at least their SUV lineup. This is the 2020 X3M, the first M-ified, true M-ified version of BMW's compact SUV. It took them 16 years to come out with this thing. And in competition form, this car has 503 horsepower, and it sounds absolutely fantastic doing so. By building this car, I think that BMW may have created the perfect car, the perfect SUV that blends the attributes of your sports car with your family car. So what allows this X3M competition to accelerate to 60 in 4 seconds? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's find out. And like other BMW products, you got to pull the hood twice to get the hood to actually open. But since this is an M product, we want to first talk about what's going on underneath the hood. Now, there's a lot of plastic underneath here, but what you're looking at is the most powerful production 6-cylinder engine that BMW has ever produced. We're talking 503 horsepower from just 3 liters. So you're probably wondering, how the hell do they do that? Well, this motor, unlike the B58 motor that's in the M40i version, has 2 turbochargers. So instead of 1 turbo with this twin scroll design, it's got 2 turbos, and BMW has completely strengthened the internals. We're talking forged connecting rods, pistons. This thing is capable of handling even more power than its numbers may suggest, and this is kind of just the start of it, because we're going to see this motor show up in the M3, the M4, possibly some other BMW products. In the competition version, BMW did turn up the wick on the boost to nearly 19 psi, up from 17.4 psi in the non-competition, which means you get 503 horsepower instead of 473 on the non-competition, so an extra 30 horsepower. Torque remains the same at 442 pound-feet. Now, BMW also says that the competition model has a less restrictive exhaust. And as you heard, the exhaust sounds incredible, especially for an SUV. You don't expect that noise to be coming from an SUV. And these things are pretty heavy. A lot of modern cars have modern technology and safety. 4,600 pounds, and fuel economy, even the competition, we're talking about the Alfa Romeo Stelvio QV, Mercedes-AMG GLC 63S, Porsche Macan Turbo, 14 city, 19 highway is the MPG. That's about 2 to 3 MPG thirstier than most of its rivals, but hey, you're not buying this to get great fuel economy. Now, BMW is pretty conservative with the 0 to 60. 4 seconds is what they say for this model, 4.1 for the non-M. I've seen it as quick as 3.3 seconds. It all goes out through just a one choice only, an 8-speed automatic transmission with the same all-wheel drive system that you get from the M5, minus the ability to turn it into a rear drive only mode. The 8-speed automatic also comes from the M5 sedan. The BMW X3 has been part of the BMW lineup here in America since 2004, and in the last 16 years, we've never seen a real M version of the X3 until now. It took them this long to finally create an M version, and it really shows that BMW understands Americans want crossovers. I know it sucks that we all want crossovers, but once you have a crossover or a utilitarian vehicle and you see how easily it fits into your daily life, it's pretty easy to see why that is. So all of you drivers out there who own or have owned an M3, I mean, of course, there's the M3 sedan, the M4 coupe, and the M4 convertible. The M3 sedan obviously is the most practical. BMW never offered an M3 station wagon, but this X3M is the closest thing you're going to get to an M3 station wagon. If you guys have been inside some modern BMWs, it's going to be fairly familiar in here. Obviously, the M-ified version has these sweet seats. Now, these are the competition-specific seats. They're optional if you guys go for just the standard X3M. The competition adds these seats. You can add them in, of course, if you want the regular one. This one here kind of has like a two-tone interior. So it's got the suede Alcantara. It's got like a tan insert with the black and the contrasting stitching. The seats also adjust in like 16 different ways. This also is really cool. It lights up at night when the headlights are on or when the interior lights are on. And it really adds to the whole classy ambiance. The seats, you can also adjust the bolsters to squeeze or let you go. If you are a wider frame, they don't feel quite as comfortable. The door has that typical German solid thunk when you shut it, and this cabin has a very modern but also classic look to it. The gauges especially, I love these X3M specific gauges. Unlike the gauges you find in the X6 or X5, which have the weird look to them where the speedometer and tach just has needles that counter-rotate and they go a different direction. This has the classic BMW look, but they are a digital display with these rings here that make them look like an analog display. I wish that BMW actually kept this display in the other models, although you can't customize this whatsoever to add like your GPS screen, so it's easy to see why they're going away from this older style screen. The carbon fiber that you see here is genuine. You can kind of replace that with different wood trim if you guys like to do so. The Harman Kardon sound system that my tester has sounds pretty good, but it's not like the high-end Bowers and Wilkins you'll find in some of the bigger, more expensive BMW products. And as you can see here, iDrive 6.0 is included. This is a 10.25 inch screen. It's not the biggest 12-inch display. It's got like a tablet style look to it. It's also a touchscreen, and the display looks really bright. It looks really easy to use for the most part. It does include wireless Apple CarPlay, which is nice, but if you're looking for Android Auto, sorry, BMW does not do that. The Apple CarPlay, the wireless function, does take a second for it to start up, so keep that in mind. When you first get in the car, you have to let the system kind of recognize your phone for a good amount before it actually decides to give you the CarPlay. The heads-up display is also really nice. BMW, they actually give you this really cool M graphic when it's in there. It shows you a massive tachometer, which I think is probably one of the coolest looking systems in the business. When you put the car into reverse, BMW also gives you this really cool big backup or 360 camera, excellent graphics. It has automatic parallel parking. You get that with the executive package that my tester has for like $3,900. Cooled seats are also an additional extra. They're like $750, which you can't even get this on the 3 Series, so at least BMW is offering the cooled seats. It's so traditional here. I actually am really impressed with the traditional look here. This reminds me of a lot of BMWs from a decade ago. Wireless phone charger over here, 2 cup holders. You can close this lid if you'd like to hide your phone, and then in case you forget what you're driving, X3M competition in blacked out lettering is down over there. Your usual BMW controls over here. This is for the 8-speed automatic, which kind of reminds me of the transmission selector that you found in the old SMG BMWs. You can see there's the neutral area. It's in neutral now. Push it forward to go into reverse, which it's in now. Kick back for neutral. It kind of will divert back to this area here, and then kick it to the right for drive. And then this is the manual mode over here. Push this little P button here to go into park. So a little more complicated than it needs to be. But then again, this is a BMW M product. Check this out over here. This is for your loud and quiet exhaust button here, parking sensors, your full camera, and then downhill assist control. Wasn't expecting to find that in this car. And then this monstrosity right here. There are so many different ways that you can set up the suspension in this car. The engine response, the steering, the stability control, and the transmission response. BMW offers a multitude of them where you can go to the most aggressive, to medium aggression, to least aggressive by the little hash marks next to the 1. It's just endlessly complicated. Now, thankfully, BMW gives you these 2 M buttons here, M1 and M2, to preset what you'd like. And as you can see, M1, I've set it to the engine in Sport Plus, suspension in Comfort, which Comfort, by the way, is hilarious because this SUV is anything but comfortable. It rides like a race car. Basically, the ride comfort settings are either firm, hard, or extra hard. So keep that in mind. And then the steering and sport, you can also kind of adjust them individually there. You can see I can go to Sport Plus steering, Comfort steering, I can go to Sport suspension, Sport Plus, Comfort, and then we can go to Efficient, Sport, or Sport Plus. So lots of different ways that you can adjust this car. And some of you may actually think that it's too much customization. I really wish that BMW offered a preset mode. I mean, sure, you can customize it here with M1 and M2, but why can't I just hit a sport button and the BMW engineers just choose what the best responses are? So I don't know why there's no preset mode here. All this customization, it's just endlessly complicated. And some of you may find that a little bit annoying. Glove compartment, as you can see, pretty good size. A USB port in there, it's lit up, and then more of that carbon fiber. This car also has the gesture controls, so I can do something like that, and it's a little gimmicky. It's got the 2 sensors there at the sides. So overall, this cabin, love the meaty steering wheel. I think that's probably the highlight here with the 3 specific colors for the stitching. That all has to do with the M. My tester is missing adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. That's an extra $1,700 of a driver assistance package, which frustratingly this car did not come equipped from the factory. It's an option that BMW didn't spec out. This is really annoying my OCD, how the button here is offset. So you can see the start stop on off switch is right there next to the start stop button. I like that it's a button over there. Cabin is overall very, very nice. But if you're looking for a car that offers like massaging seats, those are limited to the X5 and X6M. But these seats are very nice, a little bit hard on the harder side. This cabin overall will please a lot of luxury conscious buyers who want a nice healthy dosage of sport. So the competition model has 503 horsepower, which puts it at the top, the near top of horsepower wars in this compact high-performance SUV segment. Only the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio that has 505 horsepower. And BMW is famous for underrating their engines. This car feels like it has more than 500 horsepower, even though it weighs a good amount. It really gets me excited, pumped for the next generation M3, because the current M3 has the old straight 6. This is the new S58, completely from the ground up, clean sheet design engine that's based off of the B58 engine that you find in the regular X3. And it just amazes me every time you drive this thing, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. It feels like you're driving an M3 that's just simply kind of a little bit taller. Even the all-wheel drive system in this car will easily allow you to kind of go into a sport mode where it'll let you let the tail step out in this thing. It feels like a rear drive sports sedan that just kind of sits up a little bit higher. That's the characteristics of this X3M. And all of you M3 faithful out there who've driven one, who've owned one, I know you're probably rolling around in your seat right now as you watch this and thinking, oh, I'm not going to trade in my M3 for this stupid X3M crossover. Why in the hell would I do that? Well, this is why. Your M3 would only dream of getting off the line that easily because it doesn't have all-wheel drive like this. And even though you can't completely shut off the front axle of this thing like you can in something like an M5, the X3M allows you to put it into a sport mode where it's in right now. And when you use the customizable M1 and M2 buttons, I have it in M2 right now, the four-wheel drive system gives you the characteristics of a rear drive car, so you can get the tail of this thing to step out. It's a really weird feeling in a car that sits up this high, that has this much space in the back seat, that has that much trunk space. Way more than you can expect in your M3 or M4. Back seat space is going to be pretty similar to the M4 or M3, probably the M3 because it's the sedan. There is considerably more headroom in this car, so getting inside, as you can see with the pano sunroof, I have plenty of headroom here at 5'7". Very good foot space underneath here. You do lose the seat back mat pockets here because these are the M competition sport seats. But in terms of the room here, there's a surprising amount of space, so you can still use this as a family car. A lot of the premium materials, the genuine carbon fiber, the stitching, although that's faux stitching, real stitching over here, carries over. BMW also throws in, when you get the executive package, tri-zone climate control with heated rear seats back here and rear seat air vents. And a nifty little armrest here with some integrated cup holders. So this is an X3, and BMW probably wants you to trade in your M3 or M4 sedan for something like this, or M4 Coupe. And as you can see, cargo capacity stays the same. You get around 24 cubic feet of space with the seats up. You fold down those seats, which you can do just by pulling on this little lever here, and you get a little under 60 cubic feet of space. I am noticing the floor is slightly raised here, and that's because they do give you a temporary spare tire here, which does raise the floor up. But compared to your M3 or M4, this is obviously way more practical. And if you think this car is not going to outhandle your M3 on a back road, you'll be surprised, because the steering talks to you. It has lots of heft. The suspension stays nice and flat. The tires have so much grip. In fact, this one here has Summer Performance Michelin tires. The body motions are actually really well controlled. You can get the tail to kind of step out if you really get on it. I've driven the X3M and the X4M on a track, and I have to say, they live up to the M name, because you can track these cars. They have the brakes, they have the cooling, they have the suspension componentry. BMW's M division wouldn't put their M name on this car if it couldn't. I really hate it when this happens. Usually birds will target a red car, something that's really bright, or they just really target clean cars, or maybe they just don't like BMWs. Seriously, a bird went to town on this thing. It even got the wheel. And unless you use the launch control, it can feel a little bit sluggish. You really have to build the boost of this engine to get it to feel as crazy fast as you feel when you use the launch control. I will also say the ride quality of the X3M on these 21-inch wheels is a little bit harsh. It's going to take some getting used to. You can adjust the suspension dampers and put it into comfort, but even in comfort, I find that the suspension is still a little bit too firm for my liking. Now, if you guys are used to driving sports cars, aggressive cars, you're gonna probably think the ride is fine, but coming from just a regular luxury SUV, you're gonna notice the ride on this thing is plenty firm. Visibility is also really good, but overall, the X3M competition makes you feel like a rock star. It makes you feel like you're driving a car that can keep up with any M3 or M4 on a track, but at the same time, you've got all-wheel traction, you've got all this trunk space, you've got all this back seat space. That actually kind of scared me a bit. I wasn't expecting it to step out as violently as it did, but the car's stability control grabbed it, but it let the back end have a little bit of tail-out shenanigans. But it's just completely unexpected in a car like this. So I have to give BMW a round of applause for finally doing it, for finally giving us the X3M that we've been begging them for. And you also get that coupified version, the X4M, but my money would probably be on this car. So the X3M is a pretty hardcore reminder that SUVs, especially fast SUVs, are here to stay. And really, what BMW has created here is an all-purpose vehicle that blends a sports car with your family car. Now, I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable family car. Even with the suspension in comfort mode, I found this thing to be a little bit too harsh riding, especially for most people, even for my taste. I like cars that have a firm ride. This is a little bit on the firmer side. When you kind of have the car in comfort and efficient setting, you can daily drive this thing as the steering and the throttle response become more like a normal X3, but the ride quality for me kind of just never settles down. Fuel economy also isn't the best. In my week's worth of testing, I was averaging around 14 mpg, which is pretty awful on premium gas. you just can't help but get into the throttle and leave this thing in sport mode all the time. Now, the big problem with the X3M, there's a lot of competition now in this segment. The Alfa Romeo Stelvio QV is one of the first ones that I drove with 505 horsepower. I've driven the Mercedes GLC AMG, which is also a really nice addition, has that big burly V8, one of the only vehicles in the segment with the V8. You could also look at a Jaguar F-Pace SVR to compare with this. The X3M is on the sportier end. It has the handling characteristics of the Alfa, although the engine doesn't quite sound as good as the Alfa Romeo, but it is a little bit more smooth. It's a little bit more livable every day because the engine is just more refined. So overall, I think this is a better overall car versus the Stelvio, and it feels legitimately like an M3 that's just riding up a little bit higher, which gets me really excited for the next generation M3. Now it's time to talk money with this thing, because it ain't a cheap date. This car starts at just under $70,000 for the base X3M. Add $7,000 for the competition package, which basically gives you 30 horsepower, 21-inch wheels, the competition seats, and a different freer flowing exhaust system, along with a slightly different look. $77,000. This one here is around 82 grand, and it's still missing the driver assistance options. Optioned all in, this car would be right around $84,000. Add another $3,000 if you guys want its coupified sibling, the X4M. Now that makes the X3M a pretty expensive date, although the Mercedes is slightly more expensive. The Alfa is around the same price. You could also compare this to the Porsche Macan Turbo, which is going to be more money. So BMW has a pretty enticing option if you guys want a fast SUV. And really, to get another 500 plus horsepower member of the BMW M division, that seems okay with me. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my overview on the 2020 BMW X3M. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.